year to year as the flag of independence is unfurled atop the pole. The nation of Israel is as one, with a sacred tremor in memory of its fallen. On the day of remembrance of those who gave their utmost to defend the nation, all will come to sense the emotional quiet. All conflicts will cease and the daily routines will stop, as Am Yisrael is enveloped in great sadness. The Israeli army consists of many different divisions. This year, we will remember Israel's fallen heroes by telling the story of several soldiers from different units in the Israel Defense Forces.
Shaul Venchen belonged to the Toschanim. He was a prize-winning expert in archery. In 1948, Shaul was in London studying law, but when Israel's War of Independence broke out, he made the decision to return to Israel to fulfill his duty. Shaul joined the newly formed Israeli army and fought in the famous Battle of Letron. He died a few months later in the battle in the Negev, Yehi Zichram Baruch.
Avishai Levi was born in Tel Aviv. From a young age, he was interested in aeronautics and loved to build model airplanes and fly kites. He was drafted into Tzahal in 1988 and completed the necessary requirements to join the Air Force, where he eventually became a flight instructor. Avishai was tragically killed in the horrible crash of the two military helicopters in 1997. He left behind a wife and a daughter who was just a year old. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
Karen Tendler was born in Rehovot, and she was an older sister to Nadav. Ever since she was in high school, her dream was to be in the Air Forces. After she joined the forces, she was Israel's first female helicopter flight mechanic. Soon after, the court allowed women to serve in combat positions. In August 2006, Karen was part of an operational flight in Lebanon, and 30 seconds before the helicopter took off, it was hit by a Hezbollah missile. Karen was 27 when she died, and a fund was established in her name to help other young women become flight mechanics.
Shlomo Cohen was a Sanchan. He was born in Holland and was hidden by a Christian family during World War II. Shlomo's parents did not survive the Holocaust, and at the age of 12, Shlomo moved to Israel, where he joined the paratroopers in 1955. Shlomo fought in the 1967 Day War and died near the Damascus Gate in battle to liberate Jerusalem. He left a pregnant wife and a young son behind. A ping pong tournament for the handicapped people is held every year in his memory. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
אמא, אני אוהב אותך באמת, היית אמא הכי מדהימה בעולם, יותר ממה שאפשר לבקש. לא רציתי להדאיג אותך מהכניסה לעזה או משהו, בבקשה תהי חזקה בשבילי. ואם יקרה לי משהו, תחייכי בגאווה, אני אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך. אבא, היית אבא נפלא באמת, אבא, גבר גבר, למרות שרבנו בחודש האחרון, אל תייחס לזה משמעות. אני אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אוהב אותך, אהבת אמת. שחף שיר לי ולכל הקרובים והחברים, אני אוהב אתכם, אוהב אתכם, אוהב אתכם. אני אתגעגע אליכם ומקווה שלא תתגעגעו אליי, כי אני שמח שנפלה בחלקי הזכות ליפול למען המדינה שלי. אני אוהב אותה, אוהב אותה, אוהב אותה, אוהב אותה, אוהב אותה, אוהב אותה. אז אם אתם קוראים את המכתבים, כנראה שהלכתי לישון. לילה טוב, שון.
Yaakov Ra'ananan came to Israel from Austria right before World War I at the age of 5. He lived in the seaside town of Bat Yam and began to work aboard ships. He joined the IDF in 1951 and eventually became a commander for Israeli submarine Dakar. In 1968, on a voyage from Gibraltar to Haifa, all contact with Dakar was lost. After a fruitless search, aboard were presumably dead. Yaakov left behind a wife and 3 sons. In 1999, divers found the ill-fated submarine on the floor of the Mediterranean. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
Neva was born in Kibbutz Mishmar HaNegev. She was drafted into the IDF forces in 1968 and was assigned to the Liason Corps as a typist. She did her job quietly, with dedication and efficiency. On Yom Kippur, she was called up for reserve service as an essential professional in the Signal Corps and joined the military convoy that went to Sinai. During her stay there, she was attacked by Egyptian planes and killed by a direct hit. She was buried in the Kibbutz Mishmar HaNegev cemetery and left behind her parents and 2 sisters. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
Nachshon Waxman trained to be a medic from Magen David Adom and was a leader in the youth movement Ezra. Like his 2 older brothers, he joined Tzahal and became a member of the Golani Brigade. In 1994, while he was trying to hitchhike back home from his army base for Shabbat, he was kidnapped by Hamas terrorists who had disguised themselves as religious Jews. People all over the world, including some in this room right now, prayed for his safe release, but it was not meant to be. The Israeli army found out where Nachshon was being held and tried to rescue him. Nachshon was killed during the attempted rescue. Yehi Zichram Baruch. Avi Book was the 5th son of parents who came to Israel from the United States. He loved to hike and to admire Israel's beautiful scenery. Avi supported the community by doing a lot of volunteer work. He was a religious boy and was a student in Yeshivat Ma'aleh HaGilboa. Avi joined the army and became an officer in the engineering corps. During a rocket attack in Lebanon in 1997, he ran to check on the soldiers under his command and was killed. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
Dorit Shaked was born in Haifa. When she was 9 years old, she moved with her parents to Bucharest for a few years for shlichut. She loved to read, write, listen to classical music, and play guitar. She spent a few months on a farm and enjoyed it there a lot. The farm begged her to stay, but she insisted that she needed to draft into the IDF and go to the place where she needed to be, although she was scared of the future and had a bad feeling. Dorit was drafted into the IDF in 1970 and volunteered to serve in Nachal Brigade. At the end of 1970, Dorit was killed in an airstrike in Ramat HaGolan. She was laid to rest in a military cemetery in Haifa. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
Adi Avitan was a curious boy. He had many friends and was a natural leader. He joined the army in 1998 as a member of the Chayil HaHansada, the engineering corps. His job was to defuse bombs. One day,
Adi and 2 other soldiers were driving near the Lebanese border when their vehicle hit a mine and exploded. Hezbollah terrorists took their bodies and would not tell Israel whether the boys were dead or alive. It took 3.5 years of hard negotiations for Israel to get the bodies back in a prisoner exchange. Adi and his comrades were then buried in Tiberia. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
Yehi Zichram was a member of the Shalom, the Armored Corps. He grew up in a kibbutz in the north of Israel. He liked to play soccer and ride his tractor. In 1998, he joined the army and became a commander of a tank unit. While in a mission in Lebanon, his tank was struck by a missile and he was killed. His kibbutz established a garden in his memory. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
יש המון ילדים, את חלקם אני אוהב, את חלקם אני לא מכיר, אבל מי לא שמע על האומץ של רן? הוא הכי מהיר בחול, הוא הכי חזק בגן, אבל יש לו סוד אחד שפחד הוא לגלות, שהוא כל כך מאוהב באחת הילדות. בלילות קרים עם פנס מתחת לשמיכה הם מדברים, והוא מגלה למה היא בשבילו כל עולמו מוגן מתחת לשמיכה. אצלנו בגן יש הרבה חבורות, יש כאלה נחשבים, יש כאלה שפחות, אבל מי לא שמע על קופצי הנדנדות? מרים להם כפיים, מלמדים אותם לנחות, מורמים על נס הדגל, גאוות כל האזור, רק לפעמים כשהם קופצים רחוק הם שוכחים לחזור. אז בלילות קרים עם פנס מתחת לשמיכה הם מדברים, והוא מגלה למה היא בשבילו כל עולמו מוגן מתחת לשמיכה. אצלנו בגן נפרדים בשמחה, כי היום לא ארוך ונפגשים שוב מחר, חוץ מאלה שפתאום לא חוזרים יותר לגן, אמרו לי שהם רק עברו דירה מעבר לענן. אז בלילות קרים עם פנס מתחת לשמיכה הם מדברים, והוא מגלה למה היא בשבילו, היא בוכה כשהוא מציע לה להיות כל עולמו בערב שלפני המלחמה. אצלנו בגדוד יש המון ילדים, את חלקם אני אוהב, את חלקם אני לא אכיר.
Tali Ben Armnon liked to draw and dance. She joined the army and worked in intelligence. Her job was to collect information on Israel's northern border that would prevent terrorists from entering Israel. Tali was killed in 2001 in a terrorist attack in a central bus station in Afula on the way back to her army base. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
Nisim Ben David was a member of the Givati Brigade. He loved to swim, to dive, and to ski. He was a very popular youth leader in Bnei Akiva.
After the very terrible terrorist attack that happened at the Park Hotel on Seder night in 2002, Nisim led the 1st Battalion of soldiers that Israel sent to fight the terrorists in Jenin. He was wounded in that battle, but his soldiers came to rescue him, even though they were still under the fire. He later died of his wounds. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
זה לא נכון שהחיים נמשכים. Life continues. They always say that, but it's never true. When you lose someone, your life, the way you knew it, can never be the same. Your family is still yours, but different now. Your parents are different. The way you sit around the table, your memories of the trip to Greece with the photo album of all the hilarious pictures taken, which is changed into a memorial document. I really don't think that life continues. People repeat you the same simple question, such as, how are you? And you know they actually mean either we know, or we are here for you. Every time you're sad, they all stop by to cheer you up, and you don't know how to tell them you definitely don't need a support group, but you just want to hide under your blanket for an hour. Who can possibly think that life continues? Even you can never be the same. You're the one who has lost a relative. You're the one who watched along the old TV shows you once watched together. You're the one that when they laugh, say you have managed to get over it. When you are busy, they say you're really okay. And if you leave home for more than 2 weeks, they say you probably ran away. It is not true that life continues. Even your past is being edited. Every time you tell them how you took the bus together on some trip, you find yourself debating whether to mention him as my brother or my late brother. Sometimes you just leave him out of the story because you don't want any embarrassing moments. At times, when you meet someone who has been out of the country for a long time, and you are asked how your brother is feeling, and you answer, he's not feeling anymore, it is you who must comfort the shocked questioner and say that life continues. But it doesn't. It is not true that life continues. It stops, and then restarts differently.
A few years ago, I had the most amazing privilege to join a project called the Fantastic Four. This project was set in order to learn and to teach about the most remarkable story, about 4 soldiers in 1 tank. This amazing story includes 4 different types of soldiers from all the great diversity in Israel. Those 4 soldiers were part of the 401st Iron Tracks Brigade, in Hebrew, Akevot HaBarzel. This is an armored brigade in the 162nd Division of the IDF. The tanks in the brigade are the most advanced in the IDF and among the most advanced in the whole world. At the outbreak of the Second Lebanon War in 2006, Naya Ryan was in command of the operational company of the 401st Brigade. He was given command of a tank force. Naya's tank crew included First Sergeant Alex Vonimovich, the tank driver, First Sergeant Adam Goren, the tank charger, and First Sergeant Uri Grossman, the tank gunner. The role of the force, which was called Naya's force, was to carry out supply and rescue missions. During the fighting, the force carried out several heroic rescues in which the lives of many fighters were saved. On Saturday night, 2006, Motzei Shabbat Shel Chodesh Av, just hours before the end of the war, while they were on their way to another rescue mission, the tank was hit by an anti-tank missile, and all the crew members were killed. My students and I took upon ourselves to learn and to trace the work of those 4 soldiers so that you and I and all of us will realize the spiritual legacy that they left behind. This force included 4 types of soldiers from all around Israel. Adam Goren was from the kibbutz. Alex Bonimovich was a new immigrant from Russia. Uri Grossman, he was the son of a famous Israeli writer, David Grossman, from the left wing, and Bnea from the right wing, and from the religious settlements. Such a messiah of all the people of Israel. And they all got into one tank. And that shows us their legacy, that even with their differences, they were not divided. They were united as one nation. And this is what they want us to remember, that despite our differences, we are one together. We call this project, this amazing force, the Fantastic Four, for different amazing soldiers that we can learn a lot from each one of them. Each was individual and had his own world. From Bnea, we learn how to give without boundaries. From Alex, Sasha, we've learned to take risks for what you believe in. From Adam, to help in every situation. And from Uri, to be humble with a smile, because we can all use it in difficult situations. Yes, they were different, but they all fought for the same cause. And this is what I learned during a year of researching about their life. I went to their houses and talked to their families and filled them while they were talking about their beloved legacy and seeing all they left behind to know and understand our mission in this world, from each and every one, that we together can do anything. And this is my request to you. Remember that lesson. Remember that diversity is a blessing as long as we know how to reunite. Shiv'im panim laTorah. We know that Hashem created us differently. And this is the way of the world, as long as we know how to stand as one, as Am Yisrael, at all times.